The new Frankenstein by Guillermo del Toro. He simply knows how to do monsters. Did he succeed in this case? Or should he have kept this creature dead? Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In it, we will review the latest adaptation of Frankenstein, this time from Netflix. As I mentioned, the film was directed by Guillermo del Toro and stars Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz and Charles Dance. So there was no shortage of talent. But did it translate into a good result? I haven't seen any other Frankenstein films, nor have I read the original novel, so I went into this film with a completely clean slate. Let's take a look at it together. The film follows the story of Victor, who is traumatized by the death of his mother in his childhood. He decides to become a doctor and conquer death itself. With the help of his benefactor Harlander, this leads him to create his monster, which, however, is not good enough for him, so he tries to destroy it. But his creation is better than he thought, and the monster survives, perfects itself, and seeks revenge for being rejected. Elizabeth, Victor's brother's wife, plays a major role in all this. She captivates not only Victor, but also his monster, for whom she is perhaps the only person who understands. Will the monster get his revenge? Will Victor be able to come to terms with everything and find peace? And will Elizabeth's story have a happy ending despite all the hardship she has to deal with? The main themes of the story are clear. Coming to terms with the past and the need for compensation, which will never be enough. Loneliness, humanity. These are all profound themes, and dealing with them was certainly no easy task. But the film succeeds. Victor is an incredibly complex character. He is driven by the pain of his mother's death in his youth and his poor relationship with his father. He thinks that if he conquers death, everything will be resolved and he will finally be happy. But he is mistaken. Once the work is done and he creates his monster, he finds himself emptier than ever before. Until now, his life has been driven by a desire for a goal. Now that it has been fulfilled, he suddenly has nothing. And he unfairly takes out his anger on his creation. He does not realize that he is repeating the same mistakes as his father. The cycle of generational trauma repeats itself, and his so-called son pays the price. Nothing his son does is good enough for Victor. Before he makes the decision to kill him, he challenges him to say more than the single word he has managed to utter so far. Under pressure, the monster succeeds and says, Elizabeth. Nevertheless, Victor goes ahead with the decision to kill him for two reasons. One is jealousy. He is in love with Elizabeth and is incredibly angry that she prefers his monster to him. The second reason is that he projects his own pain onto the monster and thinks that by killing it, he will also kill his pain. Now the film switches perspective and we see things from the creature's point of view. Victor's attempt was in vain. The monster is immortal and sets out on a journey to discover who it really is. Its very first interaction with humans ends in disaster. People start shooting at it at first sight because of its appearance. So it hides in a hunter's cabin, where it learns to speak better by watching the grandfather teach his granddaughter. For the first time, it begins to feel something other than anger and sadness. Gratitude. At night, it leaves its hiding place and does what it can do to help the people in the cabin. They eventually leave for the city for the winter, leaving only the grandfather behind. The monster finally finds the courage to reveal itself to someone, helped by the fact that the grandfather is blind and therefore cannot judge it by its appearance. It learns to read, speak, and about the world from him. But when the grandfather dies due to wolf attacks and the monster is blamed for it, its short-lived happiness turns back into anger and pain. It seeks out its creator, Victor, to ask him to create a companion, one who will share its loneliness, isolation, and sadness. But Victor refuses out of pride, and Elizabeth dies in the ensuing scuffle. This is another blow to the monster, who now vows that if Victor does not give him a companion, he will pursue him to the end of the earth and force him to share its suffering. They end up at the North Pole, where the film culminates. In the end, the creature manages to reconcile with its creator. Victor forgives him and, in doing so, forgives himself. He dies and leaves him a final message. To forgive himself, try to find humanity within himself and continue in the world despite all its obstacles. So, there you have it. The film is really packed with many existential themes that will make you think. This is probably the only criticism I have of the film. It is very long. 2 hours 20 minutes. And, especially in the middle, it fails to maintain its pace and drags on a lot. Otherwise, I see only positives. A great story, philosophical themes, and dialogues that are excellent and authentic. The performances are, as expected, also great. Isaac, Waltz and Dance are seasoned acting veterans, and their performances reflect that. Mia Goth, in the role of Elizabeth, is increasingly establishing herself among the top creators. Her tragic character, who finds herself out of place in the world she finds herself in, and thus becomes the only one who understands the monster, is excellently played. Jacob Elordi does the same in the role of the creature. The actor, known mainly from the series Euphoria, shows that he can also perform on the big screen. Del Toro's directing experience is also evident, even though I had some concerns. Despite all the critical acclaim, The Shape of Water passed me by, and I considered it more of a zoophilic fantasy than a story of a humanized monster. Here, however, it has been successfully transformed into something more reasonable. Although this is my first experience with Frankenstein, I hear that the film is very faithful to the original, so maybe that's why. This is also evident in the fact that the film does not comment on any modern events, such as the rise of AI, which might be expected given that the film is about the creation of a new life and dealing with it. It sticks faithfully to universal themes that will resonate forever. The struggle with one's own shadow, the passing on of generational trauma, humanity. The film therefore belongs more to the psychological thriller genre than to horror or drama. The gothic origins of the original story are evident mainly in the scenery. The film is enjoyable to watch. The period costumes are credible and authentic, and the estates, castles and towers where most of the action takes place have a mysterious and dark atmosphere. Color is also used effectively to support key moments in the film. The film relies mainly on practical effects. The monster is 100% real mask or costume, and CGI is only used for secondary scenes, and although it is obvious that it is a computer effect, it does not spoil the experience of the film. My verdict? I'm glad this monster was resurrected. My first encounter with Frankenstein was positive. The film has a depth that at first glance encourages you to watch it again, but on the other hand, I am put off by the length of the film, which I think is too unnecessary. But it's probably the only downside. It's still a great movie, 7.5 out of 10. That's all for today's video, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.